Bueno, para comenzar, hoy el día está dedicado al tema de justicia y legal design, sí, diseño en el derecho, y lo que vamos a hacer es conversar, vamos a tener 12 presentaciones magistrales, una a cargo de la profesora Caitlin Moon, que va a ser al inicio de la jornada de hoy, y luego cerrará la profesora Shannon Salter. En un primer momento, la profesora Caitlin Moon nos va a explicar el cambio que está marcando el diseño en el derecho. Y luego, a continuación de su charla, tendremos la participación de un panel de expertos que están trabajando temas de diseño legal. Vamos a hablar sobre los peligros y los retos del diseño legal. Se va a presentar una propuesta de un nuevo libro de reclamaciones utilizando legal design. Y luego vamos a conversar sobre el rol de los laboratorios y las incubadoras. Y como les comentaba, va a terminar el evento con la charla de la profesora Shannon Salter sobre justicia amigable. Los dejo ahora con José María de la Jara, que desde Washington va a ser quien lidere, se encargue de toda esta jornada. Antes de pasar pasarle el micro, como se dice, a José María, les queremos recordar que las dos conferencias magistrales que van a ser en inglés van a tener o van a contar con interpretación simultánea. Para ello, las personas que quieran hacer uso de este servicio pueden mirar en la parte inferior de su pantalla, al lado derecho, hay un mundito en donde dice interpretación. Así que podrán utilizarla cuando deseen, cuando las profesoras que hablan en inglés y van a hablar en inglés, ustedes prefieran oírlas en castellano. Y por favor, de lo que no deben olvidarse es de enviar las preguntas, las curiosidades que les surjan durante todo este evento a través de, también en la parte inferior de su pantalla podrán ver estas dos burbujitas de conversación para enviar las dudas y poder aclarar las que tengan. José, saludos hasta Washington y el estudio es todo tuyo. Gracias.
Gracias, Lorena. Efectivamente, este día va a estar cargado de enseñanzas para construir una profesión más interdisciplinaria. Y para comenzar por este camino, me da muchísimo gusto que nos acompañe la profesora Caitlin Moon, Cat Moon. Ella va a hablar en inglés, por lo cual quienes se sientan más cómodos, como decía Lore, pueden encender la opción de traducción arriba, abajo a la derecha, en el mundito. Y bueno, ahora vamos a cambiar al inglés. Voy a presentar a la profesora. Cat Moon is a Director of Innovation Design for the Program of Law Online Innovation at Vanderbilt Law School, where she also teaches legal problem solving, legal ops, law as a business, and blockchain and smart contracts. She also works with law firms, legal departments, and law schools globally to bring a human-centered design perspective to reimagining the delivery of legal services and legal education. She's a true fighter in the movement to make law better. So welcome, Kat. Please go for it.
Thank you so much, Jose Maria. And I understood very little of what was said, aside from what you just shared about me in English, but it is a true pleasure to be here, an honor. I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk with you all. And without further ado, I am just going to launch into it. So let's see, I need to screen share. Here I go. 1, 2, 3. And I'm sharing.
Yes, we can see that.
Excellent. Yay. Okay. All right. So as Jose Maria shared, I am here to talk to you all actually about a few things. And so bear with me, I'm just going to jump in. The general frame for my conversation with you today, and I want it to be a conversation. I'm going to share some things, then I hope we can have some question and answer moderated by Jose Maria. So the theme is designing future lawyers now. And I want to talk to you about what that means and how you do it. So let's talk about that. First of all, for anyone who can, grab a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen, or whatever digital note-taking device you like. I'm going to ask you a few questions as we go along, and I just want you to think and maybe write down the answers, because this will be helpful to you, I think, going forward. So grab a pencil and paper and stay tuned. All right, if anyone is on Twitter, I would love to connect with you there. I am at InspiredCat. Please find me, and I would love to connect with you. I love Twitter, and I think it's a great place for anyone who wants to learn about the future of law to be. So find me on Twitter, would be fantastic. So what are we going to do today? We're going to do 3 things. All right. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am, in hopes that it makes you care about what I have to say, why you should care about what I have to say. And then I'm going to tell you how to do some things, because I hope you will care about what I have to say about building future lawyers now. So who am I and why am I here? So I am Kat Moon. I'm a few things. First of all, I am a professor at Vanderbilt Law School, which is a law school in the United States in Nashville, Tennessee. It's where I'm coming to you from right now. And so I teach a number of things. I teach a class in human-centered design called legal problem solving. I teach legal operations. I teach law as a business. I teach blockchain and smart contracts. I also teach these topics to practicing lawyers. So we have an executive education platform called the Poly Institute, available at innovatethelaw.com. Before I started teaching, I practiced law. So I'm a licensed attorney. I still have an active license. I've been practicing law for 22 years. And this is important because everything I teach is informed by the fact that I've been practicing law for 22 years. And I think this is incredibly relevant, because we've been going through this vast evolution in just the past few years, and it really informs what I teach and how I teach. So what do I teach? I teach about innovation. I teach how to form and act on new ideas to make law better. That is my definition of innovation. And what do I use to do this teaching? I use the tools of human-centered design, or design thinking. Some folks call it legal design. All of this kind of falls into the mix. And this is a simple diagram that I use to describe when I'm talking about human-centered design and what it means to apply this in the law. I think about 3 things that overlap. I think about desirability. What do the people who are served by the law need? I think about viability. What is the business case for meeting their needs? Law is a business. What is the business case for meeting their needs? And the third piece is feasibility. What is the technology that we have to support meeting these needs? And the sweet spot is that red X in the middle. The sweet spot is what we aim for when we use human-centered design to deliver legal services to make law better, to move us into the future of law. This is also human-centered lawyering. This is how we should be approaching how we design and deliver legal services, how we do our work. It is human-centered lawyering. Looking for that sweet spot between desirability from clients, the viability, the business case for our work, and feasibility. What does technology empower us to do? So what does this mean? What does this mean? How do we use all of this to create lawyers of the future, Abogados del Futuro? That's what I want to dig into. How do we create, how do we design the future of law? Well, my challenge is that we design the future of law with you. You are the future of law. You are future lawyers, you are current lawyers, but you are our future. And so I want to talk this evening about things you can do to be the future of law. And it's really as simple as charting a course, making a map of what your future looks like, how you are going to move things forward and innovate to make law better. And good news, I have a model for you. It is called the Delta model. It is an agile competency model for the modern legal professional. It has 3 components which cover a multitude of skills and competencies. People, understanding and relating to clients, colleagues, and ourselves. That is the left-hand side. The right-hand side is process, delivering legal services efficiently and effectively. The base of the model is the practice. Those things that we think of when we think of thinking like a lawyer, knowing, researching, and clearly communicating the law. Some specific examples. What are competencies that fall on these three sides? The people encompasses an entrepreneurial mindset, emotional intelligence, problem solving, self-regulation. On the process side, we have data analysis, technology fluency, project management, process improvement, design, and selection. All of these things, I think, are topics of this current program that you are engaging in. And the base of the model is the practice. Again, thinking about classic thinking like a lawyer items, issue spotting, case framing, case analysis, and drafting. So I propose that when you think of the Delta model as a comprehensive, holistic set of skills for the future lawyer, you actually have superpowers. These are superpowers, and I want you to think of them that way. The Delta model lawyer is a super lawyer, a super future lawyer. So I have a question for you. Grab that piece of paper and that pen, and I want you to think right now. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think, what are 3 of your superpowers in the law? What are 3 things that differentiate you that you do really well? These are your superpowers, and I want you to think about them, and I want you to write them down because they're important and they can form the basis of your Delta model map. So what are your 3 superpowers? Okay, be thinking about that as we go on to the second part of my talk. Why should you care about anything I have to say this evening? That is a really, really good question, and I'm going to do my best to answer this question. So, boom. I'm going to start with the thing that we cannot ignore, the pandemic. We are in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. It has upended life for pretty much every single person on the planet. Nothing is normal or the same for just about anybody right now. It is a true crisis that has caused us to go into emergency mode. And the interesting thing about this particular crisis for lawyers is that it has really forced us to grapple with the fact that we are not particularly well suited to crisis or rapid change or the rapid adoption of technology in order to continue to function and do our work. But yet, in this crisis moment, we have risen and we are doing it. We are rising to the case of the emergency. But I want to step back a little bit and think about where we are before we get to the crisis. So I think this applies globally. It definitely applies in the US, but I believe in my understanding of the legal profession globally, it really applies everywhere. The legal profession as it exists almost everywhere on earth is a product of what is called the Second Industrial Revolution. This actually is a period of time that ended more than 100 years ago, yet this is when our profession was formed. It was a time of linear work, very mechanistic, and top-down management. So all of these are characteristics of the Second Industrial Revolution, which ended more than 100 years ago. And I liken this to lawyers being similar to those great big old-fashioned TVs we all used to have. Some of you who are young may not know what I'm talking about. That's why I shared this picture. They were big, chunky, big fat TVs, and some of them can still work. If you get a certain kind of antenna, you might be able to get 3 channels, right? So a lot of lawyers are like the big old-fashioned TVs that we still function with our 3 channels if we have like the right antenna. But is this really the way we want to function? I found this tweet on Twitter and I just, this year, I'm dealing with an attorney who does not have an email address, doesn't return phone calls, and doesn't have a fax. So we're mailing letters back and forth. What year is this? She's describing the second industrial revolution attorney. Well, guess what? The rest of the world has moved on. We are in the fourth industrial revolution. Yes, my friends, 100 years later, we are 2 revolutions beyond where we started. This is a revolution. This is a time of velocity. Things are moving faster and faster and faster. Scope. Change is not only moving faster, but it is also very widespread and interconnected. Our world is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. This is the world in which we live. And this is a problem because we have tools and methods and processes that were made for a different time, for a time 100 years ago. So how do we cope in this fourth industrial revolution? How do we, our great big old-fashioned TVs with our antenna that gets 2 channels, how do we compete with the people with their beautiful flat screens and their Amazon Alexa that with just a call of your voice can summon thousands of channels? The world has moved beyond us. What do we do about this? And let's think about really practical implications for the practice of law. Legal technology based on computational law has the potential to dramatically change the legal profession, improving the quality and efficiency of legal services and possibly disrupting the way law firms do business. So this is a quote from Stanford University's Codex Center for Legal Informatics, and I support it wholeheartedly, and I think it's not probably or possibly, I think it's definitely going to disrupt. So I know we hear a lot about robot lawyers. I'm not going to tell you the robots are coming to take your job, but I am going to tell you we have a lesson to learn from the machines that are doing some work better than humans can. Those who want to stay relevant in their professions will need to focus on skills and capability that AI, that the robots, has trouble replicating, understanding, motivating, and interacting with human beings. It is our very most human skills that at the same time will differentiate us while we also must learn to leverage technology. It is the two together. And, you know, I just submit to you that lawyers, we're barely keeping our hand above water right now, trying to manage the rapid change, the interconnectedness, the need to understand technology, and also sharpen our most human skills. This is a lot. What do we do about this? Well, as I said in the beginning, this is about what you can do to be the lawyer of the future. So what can you do? Let's talk about that. What can you do as someone who is living and working in a profession that is the product of the second industrial revolution? Your work is linear, mechanistic, top down. For many of us, it still is. Remember, this is a time that ended more than 100 years ago. How can we bring the profession, how can we bring lawyers into the fourth industrial revolution? How can we take advantage of the velocity of change? How can we leverage the scope? And most importantly, how can we leverage the incredible interconnectedness that we see growing, especially in this time of the pandemic? I say to you that the answer really is focusing on human-centered lawyering. When we can really focus in on what is desirable for our clients, what they need, and we can build a viable business case to meet that need, and we can meet that need using technological support that is available to us, we hit that sweet spot. We hit the sweet red X right in the middle. But what does that mean for you individually? How can you design the future of law by focusing on what you can control? Because I'm just going to tell you, I've been working with lawyers for almost 20 years now to make change happen, to make law better, to innovate. And one thing I know is that it truly does happen one lawyer at a time. It happens when you focus on the things that you individually can control to move things forward and make law better. So let's look at that. Ask yourself right now, how do you thrive? How do I thrive in this time of disruption? Because we're going to continue to see the disruption. Even as the pandemic starts to end, the disruption of the fourth industrial revolution is not going to change. The rate of change, the level of disruption, the scope is here to stay. So how can you personally thrive in this? Ask yourself as well, what can I do now that will be important for my future? What steps can I take right now that can help me chart the course for being the future lawyer? And I want to make this point. We humans are neotonic, and this means that unlike any other creature on Earth with the capacity that we have this unique capacity to be lifelong learners. And it is this capacity, our capacity to be lifelong learners. This is how we thrive. This is actually what brings us joy and success and all the things that give meaning to our lives, our capacity to be neotonic, to be lifelong learners. And so this is where I make the connection. A Delta model lawyer is someone who is committed to lifelong learning and growth. What does this look like for a Delta model lawyer? Let's go back to the model. So the Delta model is an agile competency model for the modern legal professional. Again, the people, the process, the practice, you have different skill sets on each side. And for each role that you may occupy in the legal profession, the sequence of those skills may shift. You may need to focus more. If you're looking at appellate work as a law clerk, you may need to focus more on the practice skills, less on the people and process. If you are in a legal technology startup or working in legal operations, if you look at the bottom left-hand side model, then you really need to focus on your people skills and process skills, less so on practice skills. So I challenge you to ask yourself, where am I on my Delta map of learning? Where am I based on the role I'm filling and the skills that I need? And I'm going to give you access to designing your own Delta map. You're going to think about what is your level of proficiency in these 12 skills today, and where would you like it to be in the future? You can create a map that helps you figure out what you need to work on. So in this time of crisis, I will point out that people and process skills have been incredibly important to the success of lawyers who have really thrived right now. Those who have high emotional intelligence, those who are really technology savvy, these people have thrived in this time of crisis. And I just wanted to point out, it really emphasizes how important these particular skills are. Bottom line is that the future lawyer needs a growth mindset. I'm going to share my favorite poet quote with you. I live in the open-mindedness of not knowing enough about anything. This is embracing a growth mindset. And I want to particularly reference you to an awesome program called Passport to Practice. If you are interested in really digging into developing some of these people and process skills, passporttopractice.org. I'll make sure you get the link after my talk. Is a fantastic way to really dig in and build some of these skills. You also can go to a website that I've created with my colleague, Allison Carroll, who works with me on the Delta model, called designyourdelta.com. We have created resources for law firms, for legal professionals, and that is lawyers and anyone in the law, not just JDs, and law students in law schools. So we want to help you leverage the Delta. So I'm going to give you a final exercise now. I want you to think about, if you're in law school, can you name 3 classes, or if you're a lawyer, 3 continuing education classes you've taken that fit onto the 3 sides of the Delta? An example, a practice side is contracts. A process side would be artificial intelligence and legal reasoning. A people side would be leadership in the law. But I want you to write down, have you taken 3 classes, one that falls on each 3 sides of the Delta? Because if you can't name one that falls on the people side or the process side, then this tells you that you have something to work on. And I have a final exercise for you. I am going to provide this link after my talk so that you can fill this out. And I'm also going to look into translating it into Spanish, so it might be easier for many of you. But you can actually take this Delta self-reflection, and it gives you a chance to dig in deep to what skills you feel comfortable in and confident in, and what skills you really need to work on so that you can start to map your journey to being a lawyer of the future. And once again, I just want to commend to you to visit my website, designyourdelta.com, and really dig in and think, what are the skills and competencies that you can leverage to become a lawyer of the future and to innovate and make law better? This is about designing your Delta. And with that, I am going to stop screen sharing, and I'm going to invite questions. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Caitlin. That was really inspiring. Si alguien tiene preguntas, puede hacerla por la función de preguntas y respuestas a la derecha. En el interín vamos a hacerle preguntas que ya teníamos preparadas. So, Caitlin, as the attendees make their questions, I had a few of my own. So yesterday we were with Ana Marra, who I know is your friend as well.
Yes, she's my colleague, yes.
She was talking about the O-shaped lawyer and
yes.
the T-shaped lawyer as well. So, and I've heard all other letters, and it seems like we got the whole alphabet. So I'm just curious about if you could explain the difference of that the Delta model brings.
That is such an excellent question. It's so interesting. I actually was on a call with Dan, who is one of the creators of the O-shaped lawyer. We're going to be doing a podcast together. And so that very question, I've already answered it today. So I want to put it this way. And I'm going to actually share my screen again and pull up the Delta model so that I can share that with you. Or maybe not. I'm going to stop sharing. It's not going to work. So the Delta model is a triangle, and it has 3 sides, and the 3 sides represent the 3 components of the skills that any lawyer would need. And I'm going to try to share again, and I think it's going to work. Yes. So if you look at the 3 sides, the people, the process, and the practice. So the O-shaped lawyer is talking about skills that fall on the people side. So the O-shaped lawyer actually describes competencies that fit within the Delta model. It describes people competencies, emotional intelligence, self-regulation, all kinds of skills that fall on the people side. I would say that the Delta model actually arose out of the T-shaped model. So the T was lawyering skills is the long, tall part, the vertical part. The horizontal part is identified mainly by process skills. So project management, process improvement, technology fluency, all of those skills. So the T-shape and the O-shape actually fit in the Delta model, if that makes sense. Do you have any other questions about that while I have
yes. So I have a question from Elias Casanova, who's asking which is the aspect of the Delta model that in your experience students are lacking the more?
So if it's law students, I think generally law school everywhere, no matter where you are in the world, does a great job on preparing you for the practice, right? Those base skills on the bottom of the Delta that are viewed as the traditional classic lawyering skills. I think law students across the board are lacking opportunities to build people skills and process skills. These are the 2 places that almost every law school must do more in the curriculum to intentionally build these skills. There has been a mindset in the profession that somehow when you start practicing law, you somehow just learn the people skills. Well, I'm here to tell you, this is not the case. These are skills that can and should be taught very intentionally starting in law school, and definitely in your continuing education classes. You should not leave it up to the other lawyers who you work for to teach you how to do these things. So people skills and process skills, technology, data analysis on the process side. Law students definitely need help with those. Yep.
Thank you so much. And let's just focus on human-centered design for a bit. So I'm going to ask a kind of raw question, but I think you're the perfect person to answer this. So you probably saw one article titled Legal Design is Bullshit, excuse my French, authored by Joshua Kubicki. So
yeah.
basically, his argument is that legal designers or designers need to pivot from events to actual demonstration of evidence. So I was wondering your take on that, your opinion on that article.
So I will tell you, first of all, that I generally don't use the phrase legal design. I've pulled up my human-centered design slide again. And I don't mean for this to be all-inclusive at all. It is not. This is simply one representation, one way to look at it. What I believe is this. I believe that around the world, we have systems of justice that are completely failing the people they are intended to serve. And I believe the only way we will fix this and that we will help the people who these systems exist for is if we redesign them, putting people and their needs at the center of what we do and how we do it. It is that simple. We cannot fix the problem unless we include and do it with, unless we co-design with the people who are served by our systems. It is that simple. None of this is bullshit. This is the only way forward. And I will say that this is not a science. This is a way of being in the world. And this is as simple as picking up the tools and deciding this is how you are going to do your work. And you don't need a certain degree. You don't even need practice. You just need to pick up the tools and start using them. And anyone who tells you that you can't do that, that is bullshit.
Thank you so much, Kat. So it seems like your speech is really inspiring, and it seems it has inspired a lot of the students and attendees here. I'm gonna merge some of the questions, specifically from Cesar Hidalgo and Sebastián Soltau. So they're asking basically the following. They're asking to focus on young lawyers and how much can they really do in a system that sometimes seems to romanticize design or just use it as marketing tool. So I think we would really benefit if you could perhaps share some of the examples from your students and what they did.
So the whole point of my talk was to encourage you individually to control what you can control. Because ultimately, no matter how high up you are, wherever you are, ultimately the only thing you can control is what you do. And this is your superpower. I can give you an example. I have a student who I taught Agile project management to. I taught her a simple Kanban method of managing her workflow as part of a project in my class. And she was a second-year law student. She went to a huge firm in New York City, and she took this with her. She took the process with her, and she committed to doing her work with this process the entire summer because she knew it worked. And within 2 weeks, she had multiple senior partners in her office as a summer associate wanting her to explain how she did her work, because she was so organized and so professional. And just by how she did her work, this impressed everyone around her, and they wanted to learn from her. So this law student became the expert at an AmLaw 100 firm in New York City. because she controlled what she could control. And that had impact in her firm. And she is now thriving. She went on to go to work for this firm, and she's going to be a leader there. And it's simply because she is being very intentional to be future forward in the work that she does. And so I think that that is the superpower of young lawyers. You make very intentional choices about how you do your work, and this impacts everyone around you, and it influences everyone around you. And I really can't minimize that, because most of the other people around you are doing things the way my grandfather did things. And by the way, I'm a 5th generation lawyer. And so my grandfather was a judge, and I think most people still do things the way my grandfather did. So the bar is very low.
Thank you so much. So we still have time for 2 more questions.
Okay.
So one question is, sometimes it seems like attorneys, modern attorneys, do want to work with professionals from other fields,
Yeah.
but they don't. So they view it as boring, as tedious. So
Yeah.
how do we make law sexier is the question.
So I think we start by making it friendlier. I think that lawyers, those of us who want to make law better, who want to be future lawyers, we really need to think about, how do we invite people in to our work and make it a place that they want to be? And, you know, I don't know about for you all, but in the US, most lawyers have this attitude that if you're not a lawyer, you're just not as smart. And that's bullshit. There is a lot of research showing that when you get a team of people who are trained to solve problems in different ways, so a team of people who are not all lawyers, that you actually solve problems more quickly and you get to better solutions. So data shows that multidisciplinary teams are better for our clients. They lead to better solutions. And so I think it's really on us as lawyers to acknowledge this and invite others in. And once you model that behavior, again, people around you see how well you're serving clients by working that way. And ultimately, that's what it's about. Even the most cranky old attorney, if they see you're serving clients really well, they're going to want to know about that. They really are. Oh, I can't hear you. Are you muted?
Yes, sorry. So I'm going to end with this last question that is a nice segue to the next panel. It's from Ariel Rivera. He's asking, what's your input on the role of AI in the following years?
So I think I will lump artificial intelligence and all that that means, right? That means a lot of different things. I will lump that into the category of technology, and I will say this. I believe strongly that lawyers have an ethical obligation to our clients to use technology when it can help us do our work better. And technology is improving every single day, and it is empowering us to serve clients better. And there are some things, thanks to AI, thanks to machine learning, for example, that allows computers to do things better than lawyers. E-discovery is a great example, right? You don't have lawyers sifting through documents anymore. You have computers sifting through documents because computers can do it better and faster and cheaper. So I think we as lawyers have an ethical obligation to embrace the technology, to help make the technology, and to serve more people at lower cost using the technology. I think it's our ethical obligation, and I think it's our future, and we should embrace it. It's awesome. We shouldn't be scared of it.
Thank you so much, Kat. Thank you so much for your participation.
My
I'm
pleasure.
sure you will see a lot of the attendees in the Passport to Practice program. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. It was great to be with all of you. Ping me with questions, and you guys have a great conference. This is really exciting stuff. Thank you.
Bye.